You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another informative, adaptable, fun, entertaining, slightly off-kilter episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And my name is Rob. Very, very happy to be here with you today and thankful that you're here with us. This is episode number 1078. No, that's not true. 1079. So, wow, almost 1,100 episodes. Thank you guys. Pretty awesome. Super duper awesome.
Seriously, holy cow, it's been a lot, Rob. I mean, it's been so much. This is unbelievable. And yet we have grown so much. Excited about this question today, as we're going to be talking about when you are doing a job at a public area, and we're not sure actually from this question whether it's a public area or if it's a closed site area. So we'll just go ahead and answer the question as if it were to affect both. But in today's topic, should you be notifying people of your flying? Let's say you're doing a construction job. Should you notify people around you? Let's say you're doing a road map. Should you put a sign on the side of the road that says, hey, be careful of drone operations? Or will that just make people look around and more distracted?
It's a fair question.
That and so much more.
Not an easy answer.
On today's episode of Ask Drone U. If you're like me, you love to fly, you love to be challenged, and you love to hang out with great people, then you're going to want to join us for the third annual Drone U Fly-In. Gosh, I remember the first one, Rob. Holy cow, it's come so far. So excited. Join us on the exclusive grounds of Netflix out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, as we challenge you on creative and technical flight missions to help you improve your skills, provide great media for your portfolio to sell yourself, and an epic experience that you will learn so much from and never forget. Just join us, droneuflyin.com. Also, are you wondering how the best drone pilots became the best drone pilots? How come they get jobs all the time and you don't? A lot of people would argue it simply comes down to skill. If you can demonstrate to your client that you have what it takes, you can work easily with them, deliver consistently, and you have the skills to pay the bills, then you're going to want to join us for our advanced videography and subject tracking class in Austin, Texas, March 6th through 8th. We asked ourselves, where did the best pilots from Drone U come from? And the one data point that stuck out was that they had all taken subject tracking classes. So we figured, well, then why did we stop doing those classes? So they are back, and you won't want to miss them. We're probably only going to have 2 this year. So, which means we're only serving 20 pilots for this 3-day-long course. It is retreat style, which means you'll be able to hang out with guys like me and PJ and Rob and get all of your questions answered. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into today's question.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Scott. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. First of all, I just want to say that I absolutely love the podcast and the website. It's fantastic. Thank you for providing that information. I'm actually taking my Part 107 tonight, and if it wasn't for your online classes, I probably wouldn't have understood some of the information that I read out of the book. I've got a 2-part question for you. I am in the construction field, and I have a Phantom 4 Pro V2. I would like to integrate that into my construction services as far as being contracted to do progress, 4D modeling, 3D modeling for road construction, quarries, things of that nature. If I'm hired by a contractor to go downtown or take progress photos on a bridge, and I get all the necessary documentation and permissions to operate over people, as well as in airspace if needed, would it be a professional courtesy to put up a couple of those big orange road signs that says something like caution, drone surveillance in progress, or is the permission enough and just leave it at that? My second question is, if I'm hired by a roofing contractor to survey a roof that they have a leak in, Do I still need the owner's permission, or is a text message or email from the contractor enough to survey the building since they're being hired? Again, I love what you guys do. Paul, sorry for my ignorance. Please don't be too harsh when you answer this. All right. Thanks, guys.
Scott, I appreciate you asking this question at another level of appreciation, because clearly there's some, I don't want to use the word fear, but fear as to how it would be received, and you asked it anyways. I love that, and Paul is going to treat you with kid gloves, I promise. So thank you for asking the question.
Well, I would say I'm not going to treat him with kid gloves because I'm just taking the gloves off. There's no fighting to be had here, and in fact, a point of growth is, hey, look, if this guy is just willing to ask the information, he's open to learn. Why should we be? I'm not going to speak for you. Why should I be pedantic? What problem is that going to solve? How are we going to help him like that? And the answer is we're not. So here at Drone U, we've got to remember that if people are willing to ask the question, it means they're willing to learn, and that says enough about them that we should be wanting to help them.
Hear, hear.
That being said, he's got some really good questions.
Yeah.
I really like these. You know why?
I know. Tell me why.
Because it deals with public perception of your aircraft.
Interesting.
Is there something that excited you?
Well, just that they're new. I don't think we've had questions this
As specific?
Yeah, well, as specific in this specific question before. So I always like, because a lot of times we get variations of something that's already been asked, but I don't think this is the case.
Yeah. Okay. There were a lot of points in that question. There were like 8 or 9 questions. So I'm going to see what I can do here. Okay. Question number 1. Let's say he's got to get a waiver to quote unquote fly over people to inspect and map a construction site. Question number 1, why do you have to do that? I'm just curious. I mean, for me as a drone pilot, it is my job to make working with me from another person's perspective as easy as possible. Mm-hmm. The more easy and convenient I make it on them, the happier they are working with me, thus the higher propensity for them wanting to work with me in the future. That also means it makes it easier for me to work well for myself. So when I'm talking about why do you need a flight over people waiver, I'm asking a very poignant question. Because as drone pilots, we have to be flexible. We have to be adaptable. We have to think of solutions that are maybe a little creative and outside the box. Like, for example, why not fly the construction site on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. when the traffic is almost zero, number 1.
Well, and in this environment, you're not going to get a fly over people waiver anyways, probably, right?
Yes, that's number 2. Let's take the bridge example, okay? He's over the road, the bridge, Sunday morning, very little traffic. Typically, conditions are going to be great for mapping, especially the earlier that you go because the sun isn't high in the sky. But as soon as that first shadow peaks, that's when you would essentially stop mapping. This is one way that people try to get overcast weather when mapping, is they map in civil twilight, which I think is brilliant. It's difficult, and there are a lot of problems posed with that, and the workflow is different. But why have to fly over people is my first question. Mm-hmm. Question number 2, if you did have to fly over people, why not just pay the city to close the road for an hour and a half in the middle of the day? It's actually pretty cheap. You'd be surprised. Now, number 3, he talks about, public notification.
Yeah.
This has been quite the issue with flight over people at concerts. I know some people have gotten waivers to fly over people at concerts. I still cringe at the idea with these larger aircraft. With a Phantom or a Mavic, it's not really going to hurt anybody. So I'm totally cool with that. I'm still in the camp, though, that I believe most of these parachute systems cause more harm than good because they affect the flight characteristics of the vehicle so much.
Because the vehicle was not designed with them in mind, right? So,
correct.
Yeah.
You're changing the CG, thus the center of gravity. Thus, you are innately changing the flight characteristics of the drone, thus innately making it more dangerous. You would think that the science geeks over at the FAA would have figured that out now, but they haven't. So that being said, I just all the information that I've been seeing about these parachutes, it hasn't showcased a consistent delivery of safety. Does that make sense? I'm not saying they don't work or they do work. I'm just saying the consistency therein is rather lackluster. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, about public notification, flying over people. We talked about concerts. Going back to that, these concerts typically are putting up signs to notify people of people flying. Now, is that for safety, or is that for a indirect verbal contract with the concert goers that when they buy a ticket, they may be filmed, and that filming may be used for advertising purposes? Thus, they are fulfilling the need to notify you of the filming with the signs. I don't think anyone has actually answered that question. Is it really for safety, or is it for the media license? As someone who works in media, I would argue the latter. So going to construction sites, should you notify? And this is a, gosh, I wish Vic was here on this show. This is one of those issues that has gone back and forth in the community a lot. And, Vic has kind of said, well, I think maybe you should publicly identify. He's also in the same camp that, he's a concealed carrier. So, the consequences of publicly notifying are less for him, because if, it does hit the fan, a very real threat opens up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, that being said, I go back and forth on this whole public notification. If you are flying a construction site and you are flying under a waiver to fly over those people, which, by the way, getting a flight over a construction site is pretty easy because most people are already taking safety precautions. You just have to do a safety briefing and you have to notify the people that you're flying. Under those certificate requirements, then yes, you would need to notify the people at the construction site that you're flying. Now, if you're flying and you notify the public where those signs are now outside of the zone and you're notifying the public of flying, would I do that? Personally, no. I am not in the camp that transparency means everything, because if in order for transparency to truly work, the audience viewing said transparency must be educated as much as the person giving said transparency. Meaning you should be able to fully comprehend both sides of the issue and make an objective decision and argue both sides of the issue as passionately as you would if one side made you upset. Then that's where you truly have the breakthrough and make good decisions. Now,
love it.
Sorry,
No,
getting on my high horse here.
So true.
Now, that being said, this is why I do not notify the public. I wonder what my dad would say as a lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm just the son of one, pretend to be on radio. But that being said, I wonder if there's some legal means to notify people of aircraft. But then I go back to the Commerce Clause, and I go back to what are the reasonable rights of airspace, and there is nothing on the books that says I need to notify someone that I'm flying over them, not over the person, but their house, their property, excuse me. So I wonder from a legal standpoint if notification would help you in quote unquote creating a safer environment. Again, as the son of a lawyer, I look at the opposite end of the argument, and I could extremely and clearly argue that actually by notifying the public, I could actually be causing more safety problems than by not notifying.
Totally.
And in fact, I would
that.
say the data actually proves that correctly.
Yeah.
And again, if I'm notifying the public, then the expectation is that the public is smart enough to understand that I'm not taking pictures of their non-existent daughter in their non-existent pool in their non-existent backyard.
Let's just take a wreck on an interstate, right? So there's a crash on an interstate going south, and then all of a sudden heading north.
This is brilliant.
All of a sudden heading north, there's more risk to the people heading north because they're all looky-loo about something. Rubberneckers. Now, let's just say there's a big divider, and so the people now heading north don't even know that wreck happened. Now all that risk that would be there if they did doesn't exist.
They do that in Asia. They put up barriers for like the half mile.
That reason?
For exactly that reason.
Interesting. That's smart. It's smart. It's so frustrating. I mean, we've all been there, right? It's very frustrating. And oftentimes, well, I don't know about often, but certainly sometimes probably results in a wreck going the other way because of some rubbernecker.
Well, it also begs the question, when the FAA is allowing some of these COAs, are they thinking this deeply about it? They're probably like, oh no, public notification, that's good because then, it could inhibit problems and let them know that everything is okay. Yeah, we don't, That nostalgia of the 1990s doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
Sorry.
It made me feel old. Nostalgia of the 90s.
Hey.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Okay, if we're going to notify the public also must be smart enough to understand basic things like we're not spying on them. The angle of the lens is way too wide to spy on them. If I wanted to spy on them, I could just, hack their phone. And I don't even have to do that. I could just set up a Wi-Fi network next to your house with the same SSID, trick your phone into logging onto it, and I could be in your bank account by midnight. So, if people don't know what they don't know, and frankly, because of that, and a gross in generalistic laziness, many aren't willing to learn. Because change and what they don't know creates fear in many people. And you would think that with the implementation of the internet, where anyone can learn anything at any time, that we would have a more advanced society, a more intellectual society, a society that's also more poignant and productive, yet it's only done the opposite, which showcases the human element. And on that bombshell, I enjoyed this podcast with you, Rob.
There is a flip side of the whole internet argument, though, because,
let's go. Let's hear it.
This show is
I'm not
going
to shut you down. Let's hear it.
Well, the flip side of that argument is there's too much information, and how do you know what of that information is accurate? And so people are paralyzed by that, and I get that.
I actually think my junior year English teacher made a really good point that I think everyone should hear, which is you should know the validity of your sources.
Absolutely.
It's not about what you read, it's about who you read it from.
But it's a moving target. It is a moving target, and it takes a lot of effort to know that you're following the right people and or the right organizations or whatever, and then you're following the right people, and it could take a left turn and you didn't even know it.
Like the fact that Snopes.com is supposed to be fact-checking, but they came out that they're not actually doing any fact-checking?
Yeah. I mean, I think probably...
Sorry.
Well, that's a perfect example, and I think everybody fell prey to that. Fortunately, I mean, this pretty much was known several years ago, but for at least a few years, I think everybody thought that they were legit, and I think they had that ulterior motive from the very beginning, would be my guess. So yeah, I think that's a perfect example.
So would you then agree that based off of everything you said, ultimately still comes down to the individual and human nature?
What do you mean by that? I mean, yes,
well,
I'm all about personal responsibility, so the answer is yes.
Okay, then that's all I wanted to get at, and that's a great stopping point for this show. Great. Oh, yes.
Well, he asked another question,
here we go again.
Which was about permission flying for the roofer.
Oh, okay.
So
Let's hit that really quick. Okay, permission, roofer hires you. Do you need to notify the owner? No, you don't. Not at all. It's funny because if you read, I love, like, we are like the intelligence arm of the drone industry here, and there's so much that we don't say, but multiple people sent me an email. Hey, did you see what Drone Base sent out last week? And I was like, no. And they're like, now whenever you get a real estate order, they're like, be discreet. Don't announce that you're going to be there to the neighbors. Don't talk to anyone. If they ask you, you're there to do a job, and get up and leave. And like, it just goes to show that, like, even though you're trying to do the right thing by notifying, just because you think it's the right thing doesn't mean it's the right thing. In that essence, I'm grateful that Drone Base just is not afraid to be like, you know what, data is data.
This is a little bit different because we're talking about the actual home owner. So on my perspective, I might just say, why not let them know? Because you're talking about the specific homeowner of the roof that you're inspecting. But I also totally hear what you're saying.
Let me put it to you this way. I understand it from both perspectives, because if someone was flying over my house, I would be like, what are you doing? But again, we have to remember, how wide is this camera? What is it doing? Do we actually have rights above the house? And it's, again, the reasonable right of use space of your airspace, which means essentially not above the treetops. So from the instance of privacy, I understand the fear and I understand the concern. I'm just also trying to be real and say, well, the propensity of someone acting nefariously against you, okay, I get it. As a personal, like, for example, I just think of the job that I did probably a year ago for Mile High Drones. They needed a thermal inspection out here, and literally the store owner came out, and I was told that they were already notified that I was going to be there, so I just started operating, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Your roof inspection." He's like, well, I wasn't aware of that. You're going to have to land. And I was like, I wasn't aware that you own the airspace. Silence. Oh yeah, you don't, but my certificate says that I know who does own the airspace. And while I appreciate that you're concerned about your privacy and safety, lay off because you're about to cause a safety issue in itself. And until that you can prove that you actually know what you're talking about, I'm going to continue operating because like you, my time is valuable. And on that bombshell, I'm going to keep flying. I love challengers. I'm like, I love bullies and challengers. I'm like, bring them to me. Because
we fundamentally disagree on how to handle that situation.
For sure, but
that's okay.
I know what works. So
whatever.
I'm just saying that, like, I'm talking about the aggressive person who's not in the power position. Now, if you are talking about a homeowner, because I gave the example of a commercial property, I kind of see your point that maybe you should, maybe you should notify the homeowner if there's a job and you're being hired by someone else to do said job. I would say that innately, I think it's I think it's probably the right thing to notify the homeowner. But Rob, like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we know as drone pilots that majority of the time, those people are more fearful and will try to shut you down than allowing you to do the work, which is why most of us just say, look, the law is the law. I'm going to fly. You're not going to figure out who it is. I'm going to get my job done, and I'm not spying on you. Merry Christmas. Goodbye. Mele Kaliki Maka.
On that bombshell.
Rob's not happy.
No, it's just...
Hey, I mean, there's a difference.
I think it's clear to our audience the differences, and you can do what you want to do.
And figure out what works for you.
That's right.
Because, anyway, I'm just trying to do my best over here, Rob. All right, love you guys. Astro and you.